Millions of people around the world place their faith, their money, and even their lives in the hands of religious leaders. But what happens when that trust is shattered in the most horrifying way possible? When those who preach about morality and salvation are exposed committing crimes that even the worst criminals wouldn't dare to do. Today, you're going to discover 5 of the most shocking scandals involving pastors that rocked the entire world. And before we start, drop a comment telling us which country you're watching from. Now, brace yourself, because the first case involves a celebrity pastor who fooled everyone. Carl Lentz wasn't just a pastor. He was a rock star. With designer clothes, full-sleeve tattoos, expensive sneakers, and Instagram photos alongside celebrities like Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, and Kevin Durant, Carl transformed Hillsong Church in New York City into the most hyped place for young Christians. Sunday services felt more like concerts than church, and Carl was the main attraction. He preached in ripped jeans and Yeezys. He was cool. He was relatable. He made Christianity look trendy. Young people flooded to Hillsong because Carl made faith feel modern. Major media outlets called him the pastor to the stars. But behind this carefully crafted image, there were dark, twisted secrets. In November 2020, the bomb dropped. Carl was fired from Hillsong for moral failures. But that was just the beginning. Soon it came out that he had cheated on his wife multiple times with different women, abused his position of power, and manipulated church members. Women began coming forward saying he used his fame and spiritual authority to seduce them, promising spiritual counseling while actually grooming them for affairs. The worst part, he was using church offering money to finance his luxury lifestyle while preaching humility and sacrifice to his congregation. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, VIP events, all funded by people who thought they were giving to God's work. Carl's fall didn't just destroy his family. It exposed a toxic culture of celebrity worship and unchecked power. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. Carl wasn't operating alone. The culture that enabled him came from the very top, and the next case will show you that the problem at Hillsong was much bigger than anyone imagined. If Carl Lentz was the star of Hillsong, Brian Houston was the empire. As the founder of Hillsong Church, one of the largest churches in the world with millions of followers across multiple continents, Brian built a global religious powerhouse. Hillsong wasn't just a church, it was a brand, a movement, a business generating hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Brian was respected, powerful, and connected to world leaders and celebrities. But this empire was about to come crashing down spectacularly. In 2022, Brian Houston resigned after being accused of inappropriate conduct with 2 women, including sending inappropriate text messages and making unwanted advances while intoxicated at church conferences. He blamed alcohol and poor judgment, but the story gets so much darker. The most serious accusation: Brian was taken to court in Australia accused of concealing child sexual abuse committed by his own father, Frank Houston, who molested young boys for decades within the church. Brian allegedly knew about his father's crimes since the 1990s but never reported them to police, instead quietly moving his father out of ministry while paying off at least one victim with church funds to keep them silent. Think about that. While Frank Houston was molesting children, Brian was building Hillsong into a global empire. When confronted, Brian chose to protect the church's reputation over protecting innocent children. In 2023, he was found guilty of concealing his father's child sex offenses. The man who preached about family values not only betrayed his wife, but also betrayed innocent children by protecting a serial predator. And if you think this is already disturbing, wait. Because the next pastor didn't just enable abuse, he created an entire system designed to exploit the most vulnerable. João Teixeira de Faria, known worldwide as John of God, was considered a living miracle. For more than 40 years, he received millions of people from every corner of the planet in the small town of Abadiânia in Brazil, promising impossible spiritual healings. Celebrities, including Oprah Winfrey, featured him on her show, and desperate people traveled thousands of miles believing he possessed divine healing powers. He claimed to channel the spirits of dead doctors and saints, performing spiritual surgeries without anesthesia, allegedly curing cancer, blindness, and every disease imaginable. People saw him stick surgical instruments in people's noses and scrape eyeballs with knives, and people believed it was miraculous. His small town became a pilgrimage destination, generating millions in tourism and donations. But in December 2018, everything collapsed when more than 600 women came forward to accuse John of God of sexual abuse. The testimonies were horrifying. Victims reported that he convinced them that sexual abuse was part of the spiritual treatment. Vulnerable women, many sick and desperate, were taken to private rooms where they were sexually assaulted while believing they were being healed. But it got even more sinister. Investigations revealed possible baby trafficking schemes, with rumors that young women were kept on his compound to get pregnant, and their babies were then sold. Money laundering operations were uncovered, with millions flowing through shell companies. A network of complicity involving lawyers and politicians allowed these crimes to continue for decades. In 2019, John of God was convicted and sentenced to more than 60 years in prison. A man who claimed to channel sacred spirits was actually running one of the largest religious abuse operations in history. But if you think this is the worst, the next pastor literally created a cult where he was worshipped as a living god. Nason Joaquin Garcia wasn't just a pastor. To his 5 million followers around the world, he was the apostle of Jesus Christ, the direct representative of God on earth. As leader of La Luz del Mundo, Nason lived like absolute royalty. Multiple mansions, private jets, luxury cars, and complete worship from his devoted followers. Inside La Luz del Mundo, Nason's word was law. His teachings were treated as direct revelations from God. Members believed that to disobey him was to disobey God himself. This wasn't just a church, it was a full-blown personality cult. But on June 3, 2019, Nason was arrested at Los Angeles International Airport, and the charges shocked even seasoned investigators: human trafficking of minors, production of child pornography, forcible rape of minors, and conspiracy. The evidence was devastating. According to court documents, girls as young as 12 years old were recruited from within the church and brought to Nason, where they underwent systematic grooming. They were taught that being sexually abused by the apostle was a divine privilege, a sacred honor. He twisted Bible verses to convince these children that their bodies belonged to him as God's representative, and that resisting would damn them to hell. One victim testified that Nason told her, "This is how you serve the apostle. God is watching and he's pleased with your obedience." Imagine the psychological manipulation required to make a child believe that her own rape is an act of worship. In June 2022, facing overwhelming evidence, Nason pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 16 years and 8 months in prison. But here's the most disturbing part. Even after his conviction, tens of thousands of his followers still believe he's innocent. They've been so deeply indoctrinated that they literally cannot accept reality. A man who called himself God's representative created a system of abuse so profound that his victims couldn't even recognize they were victims. And now the final case exposes something much bigger than just one man. Joshua Iginla built one of the largest megachurches in Nigeria with flashy promises of prosperity and miracles. He became famous for giving away cars and cash during massive church services, always perfectly filmed and broadcast across social media. Videos of people receiving brand new SUVs went viral, attracting thousands who hoped they'd be next. He preached the prosperity gospel hard. Sow a seed into this ministry and watch God multiply it back 100-fold. People who could barely afford food gave their last money, believing God would make them rich through Pastor Iginla's anointing. But in 2017, Iginla shocked his congregation by publicly confessing that he had cheated on his wife and fathered a child with another woman. The confession only came because the truth was about to leak anyway, and he was trying to control the narrative. After this, more scandals emerged. Former church members came forward with accusations of financial manipulation, fake miracles staged to attract more donors, and prophecies that never came true, but always resulted in people giving more money. Investigative journalists discovered something explosive. Many of those car giveaways were staged. The same vehicles appeared in different videos with different winners. Some people receiving cars were church staff or paid actors. In some cases, cars were repossessed shortly after filming. It was all theater designed to create viral content and attract more victims. The millions flowing into the church through offerings rarely went to legitimate charity. Instead, the money funded Iginla's personal empire, multiple mansions, luxury cars including Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, private jets, and extravagant vacations. All while church members struggled to survive, believing breakthrough was just around the corner. When exposed, what happened? He cried on camera, asked for forgiveness, blamed the devil, and then continued exactly the same way, because the system protects these predators, and people are too desperate for hope to stop believing. 5 pastors. 5 massive scandals. Millions of victims across every continent. What do all of these cases have in common? Power without accountability. Faith manipulated for personal gain. Systems that protected predators instead of victims. And vulnerable people whose trust was betrayed by those who claim to represent God. These aren't just religious scandals. These are crimes, sexual abuse, financial fraud, psychological manipulation, child trafficking, and cover-ups that allowed suffering to continue for decades. And the terrifying question remains, how many other cases are still hidden right now? If this video opened your eyes, smash that like button, share it so more people can know the truth, and subscribe because we'll continue exposing what powerful people want buried. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our investigations. And you, do you know another shocking case that deserves to be exposed? Drop it in the comments below. Your story might be our next video. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop questioning those who claim absolute authority. Until the next investigation.